Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream show tonight. I'm Mark Smith, and y'all have me tonight. Coming to you from the beach house. Um, hey, Zach. Howdy. Feels like I haven't been on the show in a million years. I don't think it's been quite that long, but I have missed it. Hey, I need to turn my thing on here so I can watch your questions. Hey, Soren. Hey, Annie. What's going on? Hey, Steve. Kelly Wood with your wrench. Well, I've missed you guys too. So I'm gonna do a little check-in. And then I have a lot of questions, and y'all can check in. Hey, Ginger Weatherly, how you doing? Man, I missed you guys. It feels weird being off the show for so long. In 2 weeks, we're going to have Jerry Wise. It's going to meet us at our condo in Indianapolis, and he's going to host the show. Hey, Kate Nadine. So Jerry in 2 weeks. So, where's my thing? There it is. So, Jerry. Okay, I'm going to hit my chat, and we'll be ready to go here. There we are. Okay. So, what's my check-in? My lovely wife and I were talking just a couple days ago, and I don't know if anybody has experienced this, but what our pain was. Hey, there's Annie has a check-in. I'll come back to that. Our pain was that we didn't have any drama. Ever since we had gone through narcissistic abuse 3 years ago, it's just been drama, constantly, one thing after another. And Renda and I have been at the beach, and we've had a lot of peace. We've had a lot of connected. There's been no drama. And both of us admitted to consciously trying to stir up some drama in our relationship simply because we're just used to it. And it just feels weird to be peaceful. And hey, Jackie, Markster. I'm the Markster. I am pretty rested. Part of this not having drama is I've changed my schedule to where I just work 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I take 15 minutes in between each client, and that may sound like a simple thing, but it's made a world of difference. I just don't feel as rushed and adrenalized all the time. Hey, Robert. He was literally just thinking of us. Welcome. So the other one I wanted to thing I wanted to say was I'm grateful for the blessing of tears. I'd been feeling sort of fragile, sort of weak, sort of like there's something in my belly going on. I didn't know what it was, and I texted my wife and said, "Is snuggleization going to be a possibility?" Check in something good that has happened. It can be, Kelly. Normally check in this situation is what you're working on, But if you've had something good happen, then that's awesome. So Brenda came back, and I just had tears come up, but I don't know, I don't even know why, for the most part, but it just releases good chemicals in my body, and I feel so much better. It's so cool. I hope all you guys can cry. Snuggleization. I hope you all can cry, because it's so. Hey, Stephen. It's so wonderful to be able to cry, and what it does for your mind and your body. So let me go back to Annie said something. Hey, Kimberly. Kimberly, you had a question. I have one of your questions. Welcome. Kimberly's a first timer, and welcome to our group of wonderful people. Sarah says, Welty says, hey, peeps. So, okay, so Annie said, I got my son to see a professional trying to determine if he is bipolar. Keep a good thought. Well, I tell you what, Annie, I hope he's not, because I have been, my daughter has bipolar disorder, and it's just the most horrible thing. Just the most horrible. We think narcissistic abuse is horrible, and it's really horrible in a different way. But bipolar disorder, I hope your son doesn't have that. Sarah's check-in is that her husband drove this afternoon. He's been on the mend. Yeah, it's weird taking good care of myself. I think a lot of us who grew up in really broken, dysfunctional homes, we don't really know how to take care of ourselves. It's not intuitive to know how to take care of ourselves. So it's something that has to be learned. Stephen says, dude, it happened to me too. My mother has borderline personality disorder, and I married a woman diagnosed with bipolar 2, and she also had borderline personality disorder. That sucks. You know, it's tough. Hey, LaDawn, it's tough going through our childhood. Kelly says, just saw something on the news feed that narcissists have thicker eyebrows. You notice I don't even have eyebrows. So this is definitive proof that I'm not a narcissist, I guess, because I need to like get some eyebrow plantation or something, transplantation. But it's bad enough to go through what we go through in childhood, and then you know what the cure is? The cure is falling in love with people who love us the way our parents did. That's the cure. So that's hard. So Jackie says, thank God her eyebrows are thinning. Okay, so I'm gonna start off the questions with a question from Rachel, and she says, generally, I'm fairly confident in my decisions, but recently I've been feeling so much doubt about myself. How can I trust myself when I've had this nagging in my head? I'm just making one bad choice after another, or I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing to people. Thank you so much for your help. So I really resonated, Rachel, with your question. You know, when you've been through narcissistic abuse, you're going to have seasons where you have fear and dread. When I was having my crying session with my lovely wife yesterday, that was one of the things I shared. Um, I just said sometimes I'm afraid, um, and we can have that inner voice of shame nagging in our heads, the cognitive dissonance, and sometimes we do make bad choices. So a lot of y'all, you ask questions about how to do this and how to do that, and I always say, there really isn't any how-tos. It's more a process of just continuing to work on your recovery process and continuing to get healthier. If you had nose hair as a sign of narcissism, I'd be a stone cold narcissist. got a lot of nose hair going on up there. um, I got a question from Zach. And Zach, who's on the show tonight, says, what is the best way to deal with hostile, easily offended people when you have to be around them? And so it's really a process of not being reactive yourself. If you have a solid sense of yourself and you don't have a lot of triggers, then you can be around hostile. That is a good question. Easily offended people, and it just don't cause you to do the crazy dance. Soren says I would ignore them, and when they flip their shit, just watch and be interested. So when you ignore them, I think what Soren is saying is they want you to dance. They want you to participate. So, hi, Jelligan. So I hope that answered your questions. Many of these questions are... I'm giving you the same answer. Get healthy, keep working on yourself. So, Cicely, you must be new. She says, I cannot stand people who constantly project their BS in the most banal topics. Some are narcissists. I love to gray rock them. Cicely says, gray rock them in their face. So, this is another question. This is from Tab. And this one I can answer definitively. She asks, is PTSD, complex PTSD, and narcissistic abuse syndrome the same thing, or is there a difference? And y'all know the answer to that. You can have complex PTSD without going through narcissistic abuse. I have a very good friend of mine. Her trauma was two car accidents. And then she's been, okay. Yuveni, I screwed up your name. I'm working on it. I'll get to your question. Welcome. My friend, her trauma was two car accidents and then being traumatized by insurance companies. but there's a lot of ways to be traumatized. You can be traumatized by, you know, fires or, you know, accidents, warfare, but basically, narcissistic abuse syndrome is complex PTSD that you got from interacting with a narcissist and being wounded by a narcissist. So, what is frustrating is more focus and press gets focused on, you know, people that have been through combat than people that have been through narcissistic abuse. And there are millions of us who have been through narcissistic abuse, millions and millions and millions and millions. And these days in our country, there aren't too many who are returning home who have experienced complex PTSD from warfare. So, I'm screwing up his name. This is a fella. Yuveni. God darn it. You'll have to tell me how to say it again. But he says, do you know of any narcissists who have changed? And Kate Dean said, no pathological narcissist I know has ever changed. And they're never wrong, and they tell you that you're the one who's the narcissist. So my take on this, Sarah says her dog Otis has PTSD. I wonder how he got PTSD. My take on whether or not I have known narcissists who get better, because in my mind it's a spectrum. Autism is a spectrum, but also borderline personality can be a spectrum, and even narcissism can be a spectrum. There's narcissist light, and then there's narcissists, you know, who are hardcore. HG Tudor calls them greater narcissists. They don't change. But a mild end, in the shallow end of the pool, narcissist who experiences a lot of consequences, I've seen them do some good work in therapy. But they have to really be crushed. They have to really be shattered. They have to really be broken. But like I was, like I stress with people that you're not. It's not you're a borderline or you're not a borderline. You can be a dangerous, scary, heartless, destructive, soul-eating borderline, or you can be on the shallow end of the pool. There's one video I made, 9 clinical characteristics of borderline personality disorder, and I just pretty much described what I like. The best description I like comes from DSM-3, but people with mild to moderate borderline personality disorder took a lot of offense to that, and I keep trying to say, I'm not talking about you all. I'm talking about the real, you know, extreme levels. So I hope that answered that question. Tiffany Windows, welcome. So I like how you guys are chatting with each other. I need help helping everybody tonight, because it's just me and I can't keep up with all the comments. So keep on sharing. Kate. Okay, Jackie has a question. That's a good question. Is it possible for an empath to learn not to be a doormat? Hey, Jennifer Lee. Absolutely, positively. It's recovery from codependency. And you know what the cure for codependency is? Is falling in love with a narcissist and being shattered. And it will introduce yourself to your pain and to the wounded little kid inside you. And yeah, if you work hard and long in your recovery process, you absolutely positively can become powerful and assertive and not so much a doormat anymore. Nobody's doormat. Soren says, I have a friend who experiences some intense ups and downs. She isn't bipolar, but she does have trouble with emotional regulation. What are good ways to become better regulated? I think she has complex PTSD. Um, just the normal stuff that you have to do um, uh, when you have complex PTSD. You really, hey Aga, you really have to do meditation and you have to exercise. And yoga is an excellent emotional regulation tool. And of course, therapy. Um, it's generally the self-care stuff that we've all had to use. Being able to cry, man, I tell you, I can't recommend. Hey Michelle, you caught me live. Been a little while. Um, I can't recommend the benefits of crying. You say she wants to be emotionally regulated, and I'm recommending crying, but it's a release. It's the most deep wounded side of you coming up and getting healing is a beautiful thing. Hey Carrie, Carrie O. So Kate's question: do you know anything about hypnosis and how it helps in healing complex PTSD? When Rhonda and I went on our honeymoon cruise, not this June, but the previous June, there was a lady who was on the ship who was a hypnotist. She actually hypnotized Renda, and Renda was up on the stage doing silly things because she was hypnotized. Um, but she talked about using hypnosis in healing complex PTSD. Michelle Rosenthal is somebody that's written a book on PTSD. She said she healed um, she healed her complex PTSD with hypnosis and ballroom dancing. I think is what she said. So whatever works, whatever works. I would think that hypnosis would be very helpful. Um, uh, Doing EMDR work has a way of um, uh, connecting you with long lost memories and feelings. It's not hypnosis. Um, One of the greatest therapists in the history of the world is a guy named Milton Erickson, and he used hypnosis as one of his main tools. And he said he was so good at it, he could you could just pick a guy off the street, anybody, and he could heal that guy. And so, I wish I had that power to to hypnotize people and bring that amount of healing to them. Um, Soren says crying helps so much. Tiffany, neuro-linguistic programming would probably be awesome. I've heard a lot of good things about neuro-linguistic programming. I don't know how to do that either. Steve, here's an interesting question for you guys. He says, I read recently that CBD oil may be an effective treatment for PTSD. Or cannabis oil. If you're living in a state where that would be a legal behavior, he asked if I have any thoughts on that. And Steve is taking it for prostate cancer. Well, first of all, Steve, I'm sorry to hear that you have prostate cancer. And Soren is counting the days. It's going to be legal in Vermont on July the 1st. He's already standing in line. But I'm not a big user of marijuana. I don't think I've had a puff of that since before my 20th birthday. But I would think it would be very effective for PTSD, as it really would calm your system down, and it wouldn't be a depressant like alcohol. So I don't know if there's been research on the topic. I know there's probably been a lot of personal research by people, but I'm glad it helps you, Steve, with your prostate cancer. But I tell you what, early on in my shattering, when my hands were shaking and my body felt real super fragile. So Steve says it's not psychoactive or illegal. But it is cannabis related. That's what my wife said anyway. It's not psychoactive or illegal. I haven't heard it. Steven sells it. Let's all sign up for that. I haven't heard it used in treatment with PTSD, but sounds good to me. Okay, so I've got 3 questions left. Why don't we have some people check in and just talk about what's going on with you. This is Sarah E. It's so hard to believe that as bad as behaviors, values, morals, etc. are, that I am so attached and hooked to wanting the illusion, and that's all it was. I'm staying in my reality, and it's the hardest. Yeah, I relate to what you're saying there, Sarah. I was with a total illusion. Hey, Marlene Hager, what's up? Hey, Lance. Lance says it's a beautiful evening here in California. When was World Narcissistic Abuse Day? I didn't even hear about it. But I know what it's like to be addicted to an illusion. And really what it was this person was basically a carbon copy of my mother. And the infant inside me needed to believe that Mommy Dearest had some love for me, and Mommy Dearest didn't really have no love for me. Um, Ginger uh, says, Mark, do you have an opinion after all your years of counseling whether it is a red flag to potentially date a man in his early 50s that has never been married and had no kids? Um, not not necessarily, Ginger. Um, it's all the quality of the work they do. Let's face it. Every man on the planet has some red flags. All right. Every woman on the planet has some red flags. We all have issues, and we all have a whole bunch of issues. Um, but I work with a really great person who is in his early 50s. He's never been married. He doesn't have kids. And you would love this guy. I'm not going to try to match you up with this fellow, but he's a sweetheart. And there doesn't have a narcissistic bone in his body. Uh, he probably has some commitment issues, but everybody's got red flags. We just want to notice the red flags that indicate that there's a total just monster behind the mask. June the 1st was National Narcissistic Abuse Day. So Soren's going to check in. Ginger has a question. I'll find. Was that the question that I answered? Uh, Soren says, I entered a relationship recently. Mark, what makes a relationship workable? And what are red lines that shouldn't be crossed? I think you are wise on the issue, and I need your perspective. I'm wise on the issue because I've been chewed up by so many narcissistic women that hey, Ellie, uh, I do have some experience, Soren. What makes a relationship workable? Five things, and that is their recovery workable? And you guys probably heard me say this. These five things, not necessarily in order. Number one, does the person you're involved with know how broken they are? Do they realize who they are and what their issues are? And does that disturb them, their own dysfunction? You cross talk. So knowing who they are, where they came from, being disturbed, ready to do work. Number two, they have to be teachable. They have to be really open-hearted and open-minded. The third thing is they have to have the courage and the strength to feel their emotional pain. Not everybody does. Not everybody can handle the truth. The fourth thing is they have to be able to trust in a relationship with a therapist. And a lot of people, they're so trust damaged from the wounds of their childhood that they really can't. And the fifth thing is they got to do the homework. So you got to have those five things, Soren. And I love that you use the word makes a relationship workable, not really happily ever after. The best you can hope for is something that's broken and dysfunctional, but workable. There's more grace and love and forgiveness and goodies in the relationship than there is pain. What are the red lines that shouldn't be crossed? Just going too fast. Take it really, 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 really slow. So, okay. Oh, 1,000 Doves is checking in. He or she, I think she, said, struggling with compulsion to reach out to my abuser who is stalking me. Why do I want to break no contact? Um, don't do it. 1,000 Doves, don't do it. You will regret that. Um, so, uh, the reason why is you have this wounded little girl in your heart, and uh, somebody in your childhood wounded you deeply, and uh, your your uh, your wounded little infant or little girl is that's what we do. We fall in love with dangerous people like the people who hurt us. So um, I'm glad you reached out to us, but be afraid, be very afraid, be terrified about reaching out to somebody who you know who they are. They're the enemy of your soul and they are going to rip you apart. Ellie Wynn says, hi, Mark and all. Following all I can during effects of narco shitstorm. Love to all. I love that. Um, Lurker lady. As I worked on myself, I'm having trouble taking more calculated risk in terms of my education and career. I want to get over my fears, which are related to my emotional abuse as a child by my parents. Well, I wish you well with that, Lurker lady. It sounds like you know yourself, you know what you want in your education and career, but man, fear's tough. Fear just is so deep. So wishing you courage, wishing you a great deal of ferocity and strength, and you know, fire in your belly. Ellie says we deserve every benefit of the long, courageous discipline of this journey to heal against all odds. Wow, we deserve every benefit of the long, courageous discipline of this journey to heal against all odds. That's like poetic. Nice. Uh, Wonder Woman 221 is here. Hi, Wonder Woman. Uh, Looker Lady says some days are really tough. Life is hard. I whispered that in Renda's ear last night. So why is life so hard? And I was crying. Life is hard. It really is, especially for us who have been so broken and so damaged from early on in our childhood. And then we get to reenact and reenact and reenact. Um, uh, I don't know if her name is, I want to call her Michelle, but it's uh, uh, Atticu75. I know who you are. Says to 1,000 Doves, stay strong. You don't want to have to start from ground zero. Been there, done that. Bought the t-shirt. And 1,000 Doves says thank you to her, and I can't go back. Uh, the pill is very strong, though. It's hard to comprehend why I'm so attached to an abuser. Um, that's why. It trust me, it's something very primitive and little inside you. Um, Tiffany Windows, my new counselor wants me to name what it is I want to accomplish in therapy, a clear intervention, something that's measurable. But all I really want is to figure out my family and all that has happened to me because I'm confused. Tiffany, this is something that's been going on in mental health for years, and that is the insurance industry wants short, brief therapy. There is no such thing as brief therapy. We're in recovery for a lifetime, but insurance companies, for their own benefit, want therapy to be very brief. So when people come to Family Tree, I we have a container of colored markers, and we aren't in any particular hurry, and we get to know everything we can about their grandparents, their parents, their siblings, their former relationships, their children, their hobbies, their friends, their jobs. And then we help you figure out what's been going on and what the patterns are from generation to generation. So, Tiffany, I'm not impressed with your new counselor. Um, it doesn't have to be measurable. I hate that. I hate that. Okay, I passed some people up here. Jennifer Lee, how do you attempt to enter the dating scene again? Been single for 7 years. I'm afraid. I'm petrified of getting hurt all over again. Jennifer Lee, you're in a good place. You should be petrified. Being petrified is a good thing. I've had so many people that I've worked with who are fairly newly single who, get towards the end of their therapy and they're talking about starting to date again. I asked them a trick question. I said, "Are you terrified?" And they usually give me a big old Gomer Pyle dopey smile and say, "No." I'm like, "Oh my God, you should be petrified. You should be petrified." So, how do you attempt to enter the dating scene again? Jennifer, I would say take up some hobbies like hiking or kayaking or mountain climbing or whatever it is, art that you like to do, and going to church and build a community, a safe recovery community around you, and only date people who come well recommended, and still be terrified, petrified. What I call recovery dating is to expect, as you're being authentic and non-codependent, you're going to have conflict even earlier in relationship. Most people are putting on their enmeshed, addicted sense of self, and they're avoiding conflict. So as you're being authentic, you're going to have conflict. Things are going to come up. That's when you start therapy. That's when you come get a family tree taken and find out, does that person have those 5 qualities? Do they know who they are? Are they teachable? Can they feel their feelings? Can they trust the process of therapy? Are they willing to do the work? So good luck, Jennifer Lee. Do not get on any dating sites. They're filled with narcissists. I will say that my son used an app called Hinge, and he has a wonderful, wonderful, awesome, amazing girlfriend in San Francisco. And my daughter used Hinge in Denver, and she has an amazing new boyfriend. So I think maybe Hinge is a 20-something thing. I don't know. But in both cases, it really filtered out people that you don't have stuff in common with. I met this boy that my daughter is dating, and he came up when I met him at my house and gave me a hug. And I thought, man, I like this kid. This kid's okay. So, um, so it's more an intention, Jennifer, of your heart that you're open to the universe to send you somebody, and then just pay attention and see, you know, if the universe might be sending you somebody. Kate Nadine, we are allowed to be angry and react rationally. I am angry with my sisters that are flying monkeys for the narcissist. No contact with them. Grr. Soren says, I'm there too with the new relationship. I think it's about keeping the 5 things that Mark said in mind. You can't look for perfection, just somebody who can do the work. You need somebody who can do the work. You need a really good therapist, and you need some time. And perhaps you can build something, something really solid enough, something that's workable. A Attiku 75, it's like a drug. You need support in shaking it. Healthy family, friends, hobbies, prayer, journaling. You need it all. That's right. That's right. Let me go ahead and Jennifer Lee, she says maybe single life is the best. Single life has its advantages, but it has its disadvantages as well. Let me read this question from Sierra, and I haven't read this question yet, so I might be getting into something. Let me hold on this. Ginger, she says, Mark, struggling with feeling like a failure in my career life. At this stage in life, I'm embarrassed. I haven't accomplished more. Help! I am paralyzed to go after my dreams after narcissistic abuse. That's really sad, Ginger. From what I know about you, you just seem really smart and really talented. But I can see why narcissistic abuse would paralyze you. It's all about developing, a belief in yourself and a solid sense of self, to know who you are in the world, to know your calling in the world, and to fight for your place in the world. You can do this. Don't be embarrassed, Ginger, that you haven't accomplished more. It, all of us have really been through bad narcissistic abuse syndrome. We're lucky to be alive, and we need to grade on a curve. I'm just saying. Tiffany Windows says she's a retired toad kisser. I heard that. Okay. Soren says, I feel the same way, Ginger. I'm now doing the dating thing at 30. I was stuck in shit jobs for 12 years. I think it's about loving yourself and to sing the song that's in your heart. Ooh, I like that. Okay, let me read this question. I'm sorry. It's been sitting in the file for a couple of weeks. Here's a question you may use for the live stream next to come. I'm a single woman of 50 years old. My mother is a covert narcissist, and my father is a codependent. I know my parents will not change or act in a normal way. After many years of therapy and working on myself, I set boundaries. More and more, I fulfill my own needs. This lady has it going on. So I visit them less than before. For example, with Easter, I had an appointment with my best friend and her husband for a brunch. My sister invited me over on Friday evening to dinner on Sunday together with her and our parents. I told her I already had an appointment. She apologizes for the bad communication. The next day, my father called and said, are you going to come to the family dinner? I said, no, I have another appointment. Then he said, you could have picked up the phone and asked if there was going to be a family gathering. I was determined to stick to my plan. Then he said, all right, we eat without you and you're going to miss all the nice food. I said, why do you try to manipulate me in my mind? He could not have a normal reaction. He was avoiding my question. My question to you at the Church of the Narcissistically Abused is, nothing seems to work. To set boundaries, visiting less, no discussions. How do I stop them? I do not think they want to hear my opinion or my feelings. This is toxic for me because of my guilt feelings or shame. I want this to stop. Is this even possible? No, it's probably not possible. I don't think I'm saying your name right. Steer. But you're doing fantastic work. You're setting boundaries. You're working on yourself. You know who your parents are. You're sticking to your guns. It's about, I think, you becoming stronger and being able to really assert yourself with your father and not feel upset or pushed around or things like that, but to feel powerful. So it's a process. The guy that we draw a lot of our theory from, and Jerry Wise bases his whole practice on, is a guy named Murray Bowen. And he said, if you want to individuate from your family of origin, don't pick up and move to California. Spend some time with them. Now, again, I know some of you are no contact because you have extreme situations with narcissistic parents that you definitely should stay away from. But most of us, a lot of us, don't necessarily have greater narcissists for parents that you have to go no contact. And some of us, the work is just being around them and sticking to your authentic self when you're around them. Soren says, I moved all the way to South Korea and my mother traveled with me. What a fucking bummer that was. Oh. It's about getting them out of you, Soren says. It's not about you getting away from them. It's about getting them after you. Thousand Doves Mark advice for handling narcissistically abusive coworkers. So again, it's about having a solid sense of self. I work with a man who has been working on his codependency, and his wife is probably mid-range, borderline, and he used to get engaged in her drama. Sumit, how you doing, man? Good to hear you. Who's Kate? Who is Kate Spade? Somebody died of suicide. Suicide's a dark, heavy thing. I don't know who Kate Spade is, so you guys fill me in. She's a designer. You guys were talking about design and about Kate Spade, and she actually committed suicide today. Wow. Hi, Karen. Anytime anybody mentions suicide, it just makes my heart heavy. But I forget what we were talking about. I've been sort of thrown off by this suicide. She hung herself this morning in her home. You guys all know how painful narcissistic abuse is. And probably almost all of us have had some suicidal thoughts at our worst. Narcissistic coworkers, yes, thank you, Thousand Doves. It's about having a good sense of self. It's about being assertive. It's about setting boundaries. If you can, just get away from them. I can't really tell you how to do it. It helps to be aware of who you're dealing with. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about this movement is we're not little lambs walking around being chewed alive by wolves. We see the wolves coming, but it's about recognizing them and just being safe. You might have to go over their head, but spending a lot of time getting into a whole lot of, hey, it's Jerry. Hey, Jerry, my man. Jerry's going to be joining us in 2 weeks. It's Jerry, my friend since I was 17 years old. Jerry's in the house. Bonnie Winberg says, you were talking about the codependent with a semi-borderline wife. I think you're going to give an example. Yes, thank you. Thank you. You guys are helping me focus here. But early on, she would have an abandonment issue come up, and he would be triggered. He was easily triggered because he was shamed and he didn't have a voice growing up, and he was accused of stuff that he didn't do, and he would do the crazy dance with her. They would argue, and there'd be drama, and in the end, who was the jerk? He was, at least in her eyes, and he regretted doing so. But now he has a good sense of self. He doesn't get triggered. He don't dance the crazy dance no more. So that's really what it's about. Hey, Jerry, they're calling you the man who has seen the motherfucking mountaintop. Jerry, if you wanted to say a few things about what you've been up to, Jerry's been very busy. His popularity on YouTube is skyrocketing. Feel free if you have a chance. I don't want to put you on the spot, but he's had lots of doors open up for him that is really exciting. When you've been abused, you haven't created a self. Working on knowing who you are, sans the abuser and the abuse is important. Amen to that. Those are wise words by a wise woman. It's all about having that sense of self. I was working with another fellow today who had his relationship end because he was, had too many abandonment issues and was too reactive and too needy and crossed boundaries. And now he's going to have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death and create that sense of self without her. So Jerry says he's been very busy and he's got 3 new videos next week. Cool. Oh, and he says, and he's also hoping to go to California to do more videos on the Hotel Queen Mary. Jerry goes to this hotel, and I guess it's a former cruise ship turned into a hotel or something like that. But when Jerry goes on vacation in California, he rents really fancy cars, beautiful luxury cars, and he knows how to vacation, let me tell you. Soren says it's about getting a purpose that is bigger than yourself. If you do something bigger than your pain, your life will be meaningful, and sometimes that's better than being happy. Just saying. I wish I could say your name right. I want to call you Michelle. Adaku75 says hi to Jerry, and I love your healthy friendship. Jerry and I do have a healthy friendship, and it's been a blessing for so long. Jackie wants to go on your Queen Mary cruise vacation. I think it's a hotel, though. I don't think it actually floats. Bonnie says, I was in a conversation recently and was able for the first time to become the observer and not react to an accusation, and instead question the validity of the statement in a calm manner. Jerry Wise is doing flips. That's Jerry Wise talk right there. You become an observer, you don't react to the accusation, and you question the validity of the statement in a calm manner. That's being self-differentiated. Jerry Lance says he's only 30 miles away from the Queen Mary. Okay, I have a couple of more questions here. One is from Kimberly, who I mentioned earlier. And she said she received therapy on family systems. Actually, Kimberly, what you're talking about is it's called internal family systems. What Jerry does is family systems. Jerry's one of the world's leading experts on family systems therapy that has its origin with Murray Bowen. And Jerry sort of interprets family systems for this generation. Kimberly, you're talking about internal family systems therapy. The focus was on communicating with all your parts on a daily basis. And I found that to be difficult. My therapist says everyone has parts. However, those with abusive childhoods and beyond have more parts than those who have endured less trauma. My question is, have you ever heard of working with the parts therapy? Thank you in advance. Yes, Kimberly, I have heard. When I was searching for answers, I pretty much checked out every kind of therapy. I went to a whole lot of therapists, and the thing that really helped me the most were two things. Uh, One was the book Psychopath Free by Jackson McKenzie. And the other, this is going to sound really narcissistic. I don't mean, the other thing was just my own teaching that, there are no victims, and that reminding myself that what looked like the most horrific nightmare trauma experience of my life, which it was also necessary and a blessing. And yes, I did have an internal family systems therapist. I've been to Boston to a conference where the founder of internal family systems therapy, Richard Swartz, was there. I didn't go up and talk to him, but I heard him speak. But yeah, this is good stuff, because it does help you work with your parts. And we all have parts. So yeah, I recommend Richard Swartz and internal family systems therapy. So Jerry, talking about the Love Boat, he says the ship does not move. It is permanently docked, as Lance said, at the Long Beach Harbor. It has a wonderful history and wonderful food and rooms, and has been used as a set in many movies. It's also been used as a place where Jerry goes to write. He really loves to go and do writing there. I'm looking forward to the day, Jerry, where you put some of your stuff in book form. He actually has done so much writing. If he sort of pulled it together, he could probably have several books. One more question here, and I got nothing for this. It's from Amy, and she says, maybe you guys can help. I'm asking for the group's help. Bye, Jennifer. Physiologically, what is the reasoning behind inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth? Does anybody know? I just know it works. But I'm sorry, Amy, I do not know the answer to that question. Okay. Jerry says, I think it would be fun to have everyone sit up on the deck and have a workshop. I would attend that workshop. That would be very, very, very cool. Bonnie says, Southern California could sure use the wisdom that Jerry can teach us. Loves the videos. So, I'm out of words. Marlene says, breathing like that lowers your blood pressure. So Kimberly says, thank you so much for your advice. I had forgotten it was called internal family systems. Thank you for answering my question. I got several workbooks, and I had parts talking to other parts, and ultimately it wasn't the most helpful thing, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Jerry knows the answer. He says breathing through the nose stimulates the reflexive nerves that control breathing. There you go. I didn't know that. I just know it works. Jackie, who's Tim Janis? Is that one of your favorite? And then Kimberly says, and breathing out through your mouth helps you to exhale carbon monoxide, or CO2. Gilbert Death. Anyone play Minecraft? Oh, we might need somebody with a wrench. I don't know about Minecraft. Soren says, put a cold washcloth over your face and bend forward. Hold your breath for 30 seconds. Your brain thinks you're drowning. It turns off the fight or flight response. You can become relaxed for 10 minutes. Wow. Good night, Annie. That's really cool. Let's say that again. Put a cold washcloth over your face and bend forward. Hold your breath for 30 seconds. Your brain thinks you're drowning, and it turns off the fight or flight response, and you can become relaxed for 10 minutes. Hey, anything that works. Bonnie says, thanks for leading the group tonight and for putting in your time. I really have enjoyed it. Let's block this person. More on the breathing. The lungs actually extract oxygen from the air during exhalation in addition to inhalation. I did not know that. Sarah says, isn't that waterboarding? It sort of sounds like waterboarding. But hey, if it works. If it works. So let's wind down a little bit here. We're teaching folks how to waterboard. Like I said, I'm heading to Denver, Colorado on Thursday. My daughter, who's 22, is getting her master's degree in social work. That's the degree that her old dad has, is a master's in social work. It's the degree that Renda just was awarded here about a month ago as a master's in social work. And going to go hang out with all three of my kids. And so really looking forward to that. Soren says, Mark, you'll be missed. I appreciate all you do. It's always great to see you. Thank you. Thank you. 1,000 doves. Thanks, Mark. Enjoy your daughter's graduation. Yeah, it's going to be a fun 4 days. And then we come back and Renda's going to fly to Indianapolis. And I'm driving because we're moving our office when on the 22nd day of June, there's a place we've been in Carmel, Indiana for 7.5 years. And we're moving a bit south to 86th Street in Indianapolis, pretty close to where Renda and I live when we're in Indianapolis. So I'm driving back some furniture for the new waiting room. But when we're back on the 19th, Jerry will be hosting. And then we are going to meet 2 weeks after that on July the 3rd. And that is a Tuesday. And Renda's going to be your host, your guide for that evening. Ginger says, when did Renda find the time to take classes to get a master's in social work? Did she go to class or take classes online? I admire her, just curious. She had been working on that for some time. And there was actually some kind of a issue that kept her from being awarded her degree. Nothing that she did. It was more of a problem with the school. So she worked on that from about 4 years ago to 2 years ago. But yeah, so she's applying for licensing in Indiana, and she has a very bright future. I want her to see more clients and for me to play basketball more and be at the beach more. That's the plan. Bonnie says, Kate, Nadine, and Jackie, good night to you. Jackie has a degree in catology. So Bonnie says, I'm considering getting a master's in something. Not sure what is the wisest choice to make with regard to psychology degrees, or what that does versus a master's. A really good master's degree is a master's in social work, because you can do a lot of things. And if you go to a good school, they can teach you how to be a good therapist. So when I went to Michigan State University from 1985 to 1987, they taught us how to be good therapists. And then the School of Hard Knocks and Unresolved Family of Origin issues taught me the rest, with blood, sweat, and tears, and lots of time on a therapy couch. Well, I love you guys, and I wish you the ability to cry your tears. I wish you the ability to have fire in your belly and to reach hold and grab your dreams. I have a little saying. It actually has a kitty cat on it, Jackie. It says, don't just chase your dreams, stalk them. Hide in the bushes and follow your dreams around town. If your dreams aren't seriously considering a restraining order against you, then get busy. So, wishing you the power to make your dreams come true, whether it's in your dating life or in your recovery process or in interacting with your family of origin members, or whether it's in your career, healing and strength in all those areas. So, Jerry, thank you for joining us tonight. That was delightful. And I will see you guys in about 6 weeks. Jerry in 2, Renda in 4, me in 6. And it seems like this every other week thing is working real well. So, love you guys, and we'll see you down the road. God bless.